All right, guys, welcome to today's BC's live video session. We are, today is February 27th, Wednesday, so we've got one more day to finalize this month. And boy, do we have a nice little ride a couple of hours ago with the price action. So let's jump into CoinMarketCap. Let's take a quick peek at the top 10 performers and how the market's looking. Right now, it's, pretty much neutral across the board except for BNB. BNB is up 4.32%, but everything else is kind of right there in that medium halfway point. We had a nice little dump today, recovered really quickly, so that's why you don't see too much red on the screen, and we'll cover that in just a moment. Let's look at the top three 24-hour performers. So the top performer in the past 24 hours is ABBC at 28.29%. We got Theta at 13.16%, and we got QBIT at 12.73% on third place for 24-hour gainers. Let's jump into Bitcoin's 1 hour. So boy, did we have a nice dump about 4 hours ago. We had this really nice dump. But if you guys were watching the price action, I actually was watching it right when it was happening. It was actually Ethereum who leaded the dump. So my alert went off on Ethereum right away because I had a really nice close alert on Ethereum. Ethereum dropped from, what was it, at 135? I had it set every dollar. So at 134, it alerted me. Shortly after that, 133, 132. When we hit 132 is when Bitcoin started to move. So that led me to the conclusion that it was pretty much ETH. Now, we were talking about this yesterday, that getting close to an event like a fork, even though there's not going to be really a snapshot where you're going to get a full coin, those events that create that momentum in the market, normally we see a dump either right before the event or the day of the event. And from what I understand, tomorrow is the last day of that. Tomorrow is when the fork is actually going to happen, which is going to be a network upgrade. And sure enough, today, the 27th, the day before, we saw a really decent pullback from Ethereum. We dropped down to $126. So going back to the BTC chart, you can see here where, let me raise this up just a tad here. The volume, the volume is cutting into my volume. Volume was tremendous, a lot of volatility. This little drop, guys, just to put it into perspective, this little drop here, look at the size of volume that followed through on this dump. Just a lot of volume. But the nice thing is that we were able to recover really quickly. This wick actually appeared almost as soon as it bottomed here, it wicked right up and it stood bouncing back and forth in here. Next candle opened, it did open red and immediately turned green and just started its way back up here. One of the things that I was watching this channel. So at the time, I was having a private session with Rick, and me and Rick were talking, and my alerts went off, and I had to kind of interrupt our private session, and we both started watching the charts together. So we were talking about this here. He was asking me, okay, BC, what are you looking at here? What is your play here? And I basically told him, look, what I'm waiting for right now is I want to see that bounce back. I want to see if this is going to be the actual dump that we were expecting for the month of March, or if we're going to see a pullback. And as I'm saying those words to him, this just started pulling up immediately. So he's like, oh, there it goes. I think this is it. And sure enough, we're watching this here. We watched this candle form out too as well. We had a pretty good long session. So, and I told him when we ended our session, what I want to see is us to go back inside of this channel. And my feeling on this was because we're used to BTC being our leading indicator. That's the one who kind of controls the market. And BTC is the one, and Ethereum was the one that kind of dumped it on us. I was telling him more than likely we're going to see a pull back into this channel because right now I think BTC on this dump here was following Ethereum's lead and the alt's lead. And we don't normally see that. Normally we see BTC hit first, then we see Ethereum, and then the other alts. And the funny thing about that is when we had our run-up, we had the same scenario on our run-up. We saw Litecoin actually leading the way. shortly after Ethereum leading the way, and then Bitcoin leading the way, Bitcoin following the Litecoin and Ethereum's play, which is something that we don't normally see. And it's funny to see it dump in the same kind of fashion. Now, Litecoin, I'll touch on that in just a moment. Incredible, incredible resilience to this dump. It barely moved. I was super impressed with Litecoin's action, and we'll touch on that in just a minute. I want to go through some things here on BTC. So looking at BTC right now, we're right back like nothing ever happened. We're at 38.18. As a matter of fact, we're higher right now than we were in almost the entire day, almost the entire afternoon. We're back at 317, 318. So looking really good for Bitcoin at the moment on the 1 hour time frame. So I want to touch on some of the higher time frames and what we're expecting as far as the dump coming into March. There's a couple of things that I am hoping will happen before that dump into March. And we're going to be touching in on that subject. But for right now, let's take a look at a little bit of a cleaner chart. Let's look at the 1 hour time frame and kind of see where we land right here. So this was the dump here. Now, when this dumped here, I was telling Rick that normally when you see this dump, what I like to do is I like to snap a line right at the end of here. And this is going to tell me a little bit of a story of why we stopped here. Because when we stopped here, there was really no EMAs that caught the price action. But there's always a reason that there's usually a reason why Bitcoin or any coin for that matter, when it stops at a certain point in the middle of nowhere around no EMAs, usually has to do with prior price action, support and resistance line. And sure enough, we kind of did the exercise together. And our session was about support and resistance. So it worked out perfect having this fall happen exactly when we're having our private session. So right here, as you can see, guys, this area here was exactly a perfect area of resistance. Look at this cluster of support. Now, you're not always going to have a line where it's going to respect it exactly. You're going to have some of these little trailing, things that dip below it and come right back up. But for the most part, you want to see cluster of areas of support, kind of like the way you do here, and of resistance here. So this fell perfectly into prior support and resistance range. Now, looking up to the top, actually, let's look down to the bottom, because I told him if we break down what's going to be our next level of support. Now, we do have quite a bit of level of support towards the bottom. We have another strong area of support right here at about 35.64. And reason for that is we have support here, we have resistance here, support here again, perfect support on this tweezer bottom here. And then we have another area here of resistance support. So we definitely have another strong area of support in the event that this would continue to drop. Now, looking upwards, if we decide to run, we're going to have some areas of really strong resistance. So let me change this here to red, marking our resistance line. So up here, this was a cluster that we stood here underneath that we were fighting, and we didn't quite crack the 4,000 in this area. This wick cracked the 4,000, but these wicks here just came shy of 4,000. So this area was a strong area of resistance. So was this area here, and this area worked as support. So this area here is one that we're going to have to watch, 39.70. Now, this area of 39.70, if we can crack this, we will have a good chance of, I'm gonna go switch over to Mr. Mo's chart that he shared with us yesterday. So Mr. Mo was talking about Bitcoin futures, how we have a gap on above and a couple of gaps below, and they're on the 1 day time frame. 1 day time frames seem to have, just like the EMAs, they seem to carry a little bit more weight. The 1 hour time frames get filled very, very precisely, but the 12 hours and the 1 day time frames, even though the other ones are 91%, these seem to really, really draw the price action, pretty steadily, with, I think, a little bit more of a ratio of success. So looking at the price action and where we're at, we actually have two gaps above us. So this is a CME future contracts. that Mr. Mo shared with us yesterday. So I'm borrowing his chart from yesterday. Here we have, well, actually, I'm replicating his chart. His chart's a lot more has a lot more information on it. But here, if we can crack that 3970 resistance area that we saw in the previous chart, we have a very good chance of clearing the gap here at 3885. Now, remember, to clear a gap, we have to close above 3885. So we have to be at least 3586. And we also have this gap here at 4205 that was not resolved. Remember, guys, for my gap module, those that are in my Discord group and took the gap module, the wicks do not count. We have to see a close above that area. And again, referring back to the module, look how well this gap line works as resistance before it gets filled. So I'm hoping that we can get a pull to the upside before we come down. It would be nice to see a touch of the 100 EMA, but at this point, being that we were not even able to get to 42, well, we got to 4,200, we got rejected immediately. I'm no longer looking at really breaking above here, especially since we're getting so close to the end of the month. But a move to the upside, maybe to 3885 or even 4,200, is what I am still hoping before we come back down. Now, I do believe that we're going to come down really hard in March, and we're going to touch on that in just a minute. Let me start by, I want to do just a quick recap, and most of you guys already know this from our discussions that we had prior to moving into February. But for some of those that are still on the fence, I still get some messages asking me, don't you think it might have just been luck that we moved up in February? And you know what, guys? I don't believe it's luck, only because I don't believe it's coincidence or lucky that we did, or more like coincidence would be the proper word, because we have historical data that backed up our prediction of moving to the upside in February. If we look to the prior data in the past 4 years, every February, let's take a look at here, February 2018, we actually did a 90% run. So here is February 6th. From February 6th to February 20th, we moved up 98%. When we look back into 2017, in February, we moved here in February, we moved January 31st is what kicked it off, all the way to March 3rd before we saw a dump, and this was 40%. And going back a couple of years, same exact scenario. Now, what do these things have in common? Why February? One of the commonalities that we found in our study is that the Lunar New Year, which is also referred to as a Chinese New Year, which I was corrected, the proper term is actually Lunar New Year. It's something that Asians take very, very seriously. And even though we might not believe it here in the West, they really believe that that has a lot of meaning to them. And because they control a lot of the market, and these types of events happen during these lunar events where the market moves to the upside, you cannot ignore it, whether you believe in astrology or you don't. And it isn't so much about believing in astrology, it's more about believing in the data that supports those events, since the study of technical analysis has to do with finding patterns and associating that to certain types of movements inside the market. This is something that you cannot ignore. Now, we're coming upon another event that I don't want people to dismiss it. I know we had a few people in our Discord that were really dismissive about the Chinese New Year, and the proof is in the data, and you saw how much we ran this month. Now, we have a very, very important event coming up, which actually I will touch into it in just a moment in our second half of our TA. I want to go through some of these coins, but since we were talking about Bitcoin, I kind of got a little bit ahead of myself. But let me just finish some of these altcoins here, and then we'll move into the TA. Let's look at Ethereum. Ethereum here, after that drop to $126, actually pushed up really, really nicely back inside of the channel. Where it looks like we're about to test the bottom of that channel once again here, which would put us at about $133.78. Now, the indicators are looking bullish. We have a nice little bullish uptick on the MACD on the 1 hour time frame. The RSI came down to 45 points, giving us still maintaining that bullish momentum inside of this 40 to 50 point range. So we want to make sure we don't drop below the 40-point range, because then we're going to go into more of a bearish tone of momentum, of trend into the market. So we want to make sure that we maintain this type of channel for any possibility of continuing, at least going sideways or moving forward. But we have to keep in mind, we have to be mindful that Ethereum has a major event concluding, which will be tomorrow, which is that fork that we're talking about. So a further dump could be a very big possibility, which in turn is going to probably bring down a lot of the market with it. Now, let's look at LTC. There's not really much to cover on Ethereum, because no amount of TA is going to keep Ethereum held to a certain level, because, as you know, crypto is very event driven. So that event is really going to kind of cancel out any type of bullish setup that we might see on Ethereum. Will easily get canceled out, will be trumped by an MA event. So right now, our MA event, like we mentioned before, is that that upcoming fork coming up tomorrow with Ethereum. But Litecoin, guys, I know we have a lot of Litecoin fans in our Discord group, and I have to say, I was super impressed with Litecoin. Most of these coins dumped hard. Litecoin barely moved $3 and immediately came up. This coin immediately wicked right back up into the normal range that it was, and has even actually is now currently above the price action that it was the entire day. So incredible bullish momentum on Litecoin. It definitely has caught my interest for when we do another leg down on Bitcoin. I'm definitely going to be keeping my eyes on coins like this. And this is something that's really important, guys. Why I always stress that you guys should stay on top of price action. Price action helps you determine which coins move with the trend and which coins are a little bit more resilient to downward trends. So seeing Litecoin barely affected by such a big drop of Bitcoin and Ethereum that are usually leading coins tells me that there's a lot of strong support on Litecoin. So what that's going to do for me now, it's going to put Litecoin in my radar, just the way TRX's price action has been in the past few months in my radar as well. We know that we have a very strong TRX community, and when TRX falls, it immediately comes right back up. So that coin in itself is one of my number one coins leading into the next bear market. And remember, guys, a bear market is not a bad thing. A bearish move to the downside is giving us the opportunity, guys. Don't look at it as a negative. Look at it as an opportunity to prepare ourselves to get some really nice entries. As long as we're prepared and we know and we have a good sense of where the market's going to be going, we shouldn't fear a big drop to the bottom. The only people who should fear a drop are those that are holding and are not prepared and are waiting for that bull to come that never comes. Don't take profit and are basically their portfolio is locked up because they weren't prepared and they didn't pull out ahead of time. And that's why I kind of want to touch on some of the things that we talked about before one more time, because we only have one more day left for the end of the month. So I think it's very, very important that we touch on that on our second half of our Zoom session. So for right now, guys, Litecoin looks very bullish. MACD, look at that. Beautiful bullish crossover back up into the neutral side of the oscillators. We need a little bit more to hit neutral, but I think that the momentum, if Bitcoin's momentum can continue to cover those gaps on the CME futures, we have a really good chance of getting back up here, maybe to about $49 before we have that that drop that we're expecting. Let's look at XRP. So XRP had a again had a really strong drop, just like everything else, most of the stuff on the market, but quickly recovered back up here. Now it is being rejected by this line. So this was a line of support that was touched a few times. So confirmed a nice area of support here, right below the 618 fib level. We dropped to 886. Market found value, brought it back up, and now we are right here acting. This line is now acting as resistance to our prior support line. So right now, our line to watch is going to be 129, so 31 cents, just a little bit above 31 cents to break that new resistance, old support line, to get back into the 618 channel that this has been for the past day and a half. So hopefully we can see a movement to the upside, whether it's a short move to the upside on the move of Bitcoin, that if indeed Bitcoin does move to the upside and covers those CME gaps, future gaps, we can hopefully see another move to the upside. Now, how much farther up is really going to determine on Bitcoin's price action. If Bitcoin can make it up to $4,200 to cover that 4205 gap on the CME futures, we can possibly see a nice move here to maybe 36 cents on Litecoin. If we only see $100 pump, we maybe get to the 236 area, or even 34-cent area here on the top of that fib. So this area here is going to be a very tough one to break. I really thought that we were going to push a little bit further, being that XRP has been waiting to get listed on Coinbase for such a long time, but it goes to show that this bear market has been really taking its toll, even on the biggest communities. And what I mean by communities, coin communities, little groups of armies, as they call them on Twitter, TRX army and the XRP army, I thought had a lot more in them. But unfortunately, I think a lot of people rode this down from 6,400, thinking we weren't going to drop below that 6,400, where most of us here, we already knew we were going to go down below 6,400. I thought we were going to drop no less than 5,000, and the market proved us wrong. We came all the way down to 31.89. I know a few of you guys bought that bottom, and for those that did not buy that bottom, I am very, very confident that we're going to have a second chance to buy that bottom and even have a better chance to get it below the $3,000 range. Bitcoin Cash, and we're going to touch on that in just a moment. Bitcoin Cash, looking at the 1 hour time frame, we're kind of right back to the $130 mark that it's been ranging for the day prior to this dump. It's been inside between 130.20 and 133, pretty much ranging all day until we had that drop, and it's slowly trickling its way back up. Right now, the point of resistance is that 30 EMA is now rejecting the price action, but we'll see. Well, I know this mimics Bitcoin to the T, so this is going to follow whichever direction Bitcoin is going to move. Bitcoin SV, however, for those that missed this pump here, you are going to have another chance to pick up SV. Now, I don't recommend buying SV until after March or after the event that we're going to be talking about in just a moment. But goes to show you guys, I hope you guys took profit. There's always a second chance to buy these coins cheaper. So this is a 6 hour chart, just to give you an idea. Let's go to the 1 hour chart so you can really see how much this has given back. So I hope you guys took profit on this move to the upside. And this was a clear indicator that we were coming back down here. All right, guys, let's see. Let's look at one more chart. Let's look at Icon. Let's look here at Icon. Where is? Right there. Here it is. There we go. Okay. Let me move this out of here. Let me move this bar out of here. Let me put my indicators on. Okay. All right, icon on the 1 day time frame. Been ranging really tight. So this is one that I was talking of that I've been talking about, like Bitcoin Cash, where it gives you the opportunity to really play the ranges. And here, once again on the 1 day time frame, guys, these are money makers. And it's funny because this is the same coin that I used as an example for Joe on our Discord group, where he was trying to understand what range trading is. And look at this. Look at these ranges. This might not seem, and it's probably like 4%, maybe five. Oh no, 6%. Look at that. That's amazing. 6% range. Normally, a good range is 3%, 3 to 4.5, 5%. Here we got almost a 7% range, where you can find an area where you sell it, you buy it, sell it, buy it, sell it, buy it, and look, you're going to get close to selling it again. And this is all within a 24-hour span. You could have made 30% return on your money just playing these types of ranges. Now, not every single coin has these ranges. That's where your homework comes in. We're not going to spoon feed you every single coin that's out there. You guys need to take it seriously. You guys need to do the homework. And there are a lot of coins out there that have this type of price action. I've given you a couple of them. Bitcoin Cash ABC, Icon is one of them, and we've talked about a few other ones. I just don't have them on the top of my head. But there are many coins, both BTC pair and USDT pair. For those that don't like to trade a BTC pair like myself, that you can really make a lot of money playing these ranges. And most of these, to be honest with you, you're not going to find 7% range. This was just a very bullish coin to play the ranges. Some of those are typically, like I mentioned before, 3 to 5%, which is still phenomenal in the trading world to make that in 1 day, if you can do that multiple times in a day. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and switch over to the second half of our show. So for those guys that are new, what I do is that on the first half of the show, the first 20, 30 minutes, we cover some of the major coins here that have been breaking out that the members have been trading. We do TA on them. The second half of the show, we encourage you guys to participate. And the way you guys can do that is two ways. In the bottom of your participation box, you have a button that's called Raise Hand. You can click on that, and that's going to alert my computer that you guys have a question. I will unmute you guys, and you and I can have a conversation while everybody stays muted, so all the background noise won't interrupt us. If you're unable to speak, if you're at work or your baby's sleeping, or whatever the reason might be, we have a chat box inside of the Zoom application. If you guys want to post your questions inside of that chat box, me and Mr. Mo will do our very best to answer each and every question before we end our session. So let me look real quick before I go into the analysis that I'm going to do for March and why I'm expecting the market to dump. Let me take a quick look to see if we have any raised hands. Okay, we have no raised hands. Okay, let me look at the chat box real quick just to see if there's anything that, okay, all right, guys. So, okay, a lot of just comments, and we'll get to those comments. So let me get to what my announcement was earlier today about how I wanted you guys to join in, because I want to make sure that you guys are prepared. One of the things about having a group is not only teaching you guys about TA the way me and Mr. Mo does, and the way a lot of the community members go out above and beyond and help the other ones that are barely coming into the space, that are trying to learn. They share their TA, they share their setups, is making you guys aware of events that might affect your bottom line. So one of the events that we've been talking about, and I'm going to touch one more time, is this chart, guys, this Mercury retrograde chart. So another good point that Mr. Mo made today that made me think about this, that I did not touch on his previous chart, because he had two charts, one with the full moon and new moon events, and one without. And the one that I showed you guys before was without the events. But if you guys look here, new moon, shortly after, right before the Mercury retrograde, we dump. Now, for those of you who have not seen this chart, let me just point out to you guys, this Mercury retrograde, like I said, even if you guys don't believe in astrology, and you don't have to, I want you to believe in the pattern and in the price action of what happens around those events. Mercury grade starts here. Bitcoin drops $3,000. New moon comes and we start moving up. Price action settles out. The next new moon prior to the next Mercury retrograde, and we dump another $3,000. Now we have the price action going sideways, very similar to here. And I believe we are approaching a new moon coming. Mr. Mo, is the new moon today or tomorrow? Okay, it's not on this chart here. Oh yeah, right here. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I was looking at the thing. Yeah, right here. So if you look up here, guys, new moon is one day after the Mercury retrograde. So you have two things that are happening that have caused the market to dump in prior experiences. Now, the fact that it dumped 3,000 here and 3,000 here, I'm not saying that we're going to drop 3,000. It's going to take us into the $1,000 territory. An amount of how much something is going to drop is not something we can predict. It's something that no one can predict. All we could do is look at the data to help us understand what happens around these events. And this is the reason that I made a statement that I've been saying for the past few days to my members. Come March 1st, I am exiting out of all of my positions. And I have already been doing so. The only position that I'm still currently holding is XRP, and I'm just waiting to see how Bitcoin closes today to make my decision if I want to go ahead and just take my 6% loss, or if I want to go ahead and see if we can get a one last minute pump up from Bitcoin so that I can start exiting the market myself. Now, I am not telling you guys what to do with your portfolios. I am not telling you guys to dump what you guys have. If you guys are in profit, I'm not telling you to get out because this is going to come crashing down. The only thing that I want you guys to be mindful is that we're approaching an event that historically has caused the price action to take a serious decline. So if you guys are in a trade and you guys are in profit, it's simple to just move your stop losses up. In the event that this repeats itself again, you're protected. And if it doesn't repeat itself again and the momentum continues bullish in the market, well, then you continue to ride those profits to the upside, no harm, no foul. But I would feel very, very bad and disappointed with myself, and if I did not at least make sure that you guys are fully aware of the possibilities of what we're expecting. Now, apart from this chart, there are other guys that I follow, like Chart Vamp. Me and Chart Vamp have a really good rapport. We talk a lot on Discord. He's a great member of our community. And I've come on his show. I've done podcasts with him, and he has an indicator, the 30 and the 7-day indicator on the 1-day time frame that's going to have a death cross. Now, that death cross, coincidentally enough, coincides with the Mercury retrograde. It's things like that, guys, that when different indicators are giving you the same conclusion, you have to take it into consideration when you have money on the line. If you guys are paper trading, if you guys are doing paper trading, you're not really going to lose much. Other than than your ratio of success. But for most of you guys that have money on the line, when you have different people showing you different scenarios coming to the same conclusion, you have to take this seriously. Whether you want to believe in the retrograde, or whether you want to believe in the death cross, or whether you want to believe in the simple fact that the CME futures has a gap all the way down at $3,152, and that has had an actual 100% success rate in filling those gaps. Bitcoin chart regular price action has about a 91% success rate. Big Chonis, who does a who does a very, very wonderful job, who has a daily show on YouTube, who covers CME futures chart, can tell you his gap on the CME futures have 100% success rate of filling. There hasn't been one that has not filled, and we've got quite a few of them from the current price action all the way down to 31.52. So based on his chart, we are minimum going to cover that 31.52 gap. However, I, for one, do believe that we're going to go lower. I believe that we're going to go at least a 2,500. And I've been calling 2,500 for quite a long time, because there are some pretty big gaps on the higher time frames on Bitcoin for 20 in the 26, 27, and $2,800 range. And as you guys who've been following me for quite some time know the success rate that I have on those gap charts and how well they fill on the 1 hour time frame, more so on these higher time frames. So because of that, and also a combination of so many different coins out there that have ran from when we dropped down here in November, when we dropped down to 3,100 and the market started going back up, we left a ton of gaps on across almost 99% of all of these major coins and these small cap coins. So the amount of gaps left behind are the same amount of gaps left behind when we ran from 6,000 to 8,400 before we dropped back down. So that leads me to believe that we're going to be filling in those gaps. So I want to make sure that you guys are prepared and are ready, so that when these events happen, you don't come to me, you don't say, what happened? I can't believe no one said anything, because we have been talking about this for quite some time. The same way we prepared you guys before February, how February is normally a pivot month, and we see a lot of upside in price action. So I want to see if you guys have any questions, or if you guys have any concerns, or just some comments that you guys want to post to me. Again, you can raise your hand. I'm going to now take a look at the chat box, and I'm going to read from the top just to see if anybody has any questions. Impact boy. Okay, we've got a raised hand here by Jay Large. Give me 1 second. Hey Jay, how you doing?
Good. ABC. Hey, where is this? What's the setting for this chart that you've got on right now on TradingView?
The setting as far the Mercury retrograde?
Yeah, is that
no, this is actually every single one of these lines and these entries were all done by hand by Mr. Mo. This is remember, Mr. Mo is very, very big on journaling. He's always telling you guys need to journal everything. So after every single event, he takes the time to continue like a big, just like you would a diary, a journal. He logs all the new moons and full moons and retrogrades, and he continues to use the same chart over and over again, which is why I'm using his chart, because he's a lot more meticulous than I am. I'm that sloppy roommate, where he's the odd couple. You remember the Odd Couple? You remember that show back in the 70s? Yeah. The Odd Couple? All right, well, I'm the sloppy roommate. He's the anal retentive, perfectly manicured, everything's in order guy.
Well, Mr. Mo needs to put this as a template on TradingView then.
Yeah, you know what? That's
Slacker.
I definitely plan on putting it, but what we wanted to do first was to do the study. And by the way, so just to go back a little bit, last week we started to discuss all these different possibilities, and someone was asking regarding backtesting into the last bear, so 2014. Guess what? I got it. You want to see it?
Yes, please.
All right, so I'm going to share my browser. Let me see here. Just let me know when you guys see it.
Yep, I see. We see it.
See it?
Yes.
Okay, and
yep.
Okay, so this is So this is the current study of what's happening to price action. Actually, this is a different version of the one that you're seeing, because not only do I do the lunar events and retro, but I actually do what's the narrative of price action inside of BTC. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to just jump out of this chart for a minute, and I'm going to go just to, I think I have it inside of one of these. Let me just find it. Bear with me one moment. This is an updated version of that. Move this out the way. And just to add on to that study, so the first retrograde, 4 days later, then she kind of dumped out. Okay, she dumps out 4 days before this retrograde, and she dumps out. Okay, so I'm kind of looking at this as a marker, maybe March 1st, inside of March 1st or March 9th. In terms of potential dump out. So in taking the idea further, we want to look at the last bear market. So this is December moving into 2014, the year of 2014. So I went back, I grabbed the dates of the retrograde periods in 2014, which begins February 6th, 2014 to February 28th, she dumped out 50%. On the next retrograde, she kicks off June 7th, ending on July 1st. She dumped out 18% once. She tried to move back up, but got rejected and lost another 10%. So not as bad here, but just in general, the idea is that do retrogrades provide a pivot point for us? And if so, maybe we could use that also in our study to say maybe better get an entry. I like the story of what's happening, between these 3 cycles, back testing to 2014. I like what I'm seeing in terms of BTC CME futures contracts. They gapped her. So these are great opportunities, I think. Just when I start looking at the story, momentum. I mean, what's momentum right now? When we let me zoom out here, right? She's looking tired. She's looking pretty tired there. So I can see this, something like that.
So are you guys seeing like every 4 Lunar New Year's you're going to get a big dump? The other ones look like they are actually reacting to that, but are you seeing a pattern there? Is that what you're looking for? Or
yeah, we're trying to look at just and again, we are not astrologers or anything like that. We are a group of people who are very passionate about technical analysis, and in that, we're looking for our patterns, and we're looking for correlation.
Gotcha.
So.
I don't have a tattoo of a third eye in my back.
No, this is great though. I mean, you got to take it all in. I appreciate that.
Jay Large, when Mr. Mo first showed me this, I thought he was nuts. When I first got into crypto and he was telling me how it affected, I'm like, come on, because I've never believed in that stuff. Me personally, a lot of people do, and I don't mean to offend anybody who believes in it, but I never did. But when he kept on telling me, look, this is going to happen, and this usually happens when this moon happens, and it would happen, I'm like, how the hell do you know that? And I started investigating more and more and really following his charts. And now I'm a believer. I'm a believer.
Yeah, this is about discovering and understanding different belief systems. It's like, you see a pattern in the market and you go, man, something's going on November and December in the United States. There's got to be something going on. And someone comes in with the answer and says, Santa Claus. So, and that's a belief system. But I find it fascinating that, for a couple of things. Number one, if you look at the study of Fibonacci, right? The study of Fibonacci it's really incredible, because how do you coordinate everybody on the planet to hit at the same time, at the same mark, is unbelievable. The fact that it's a growth process that we see in universes and flowers and so many different things. And we also see it in terms of price action inside of the stock market and inside of, the crypto market as well. Looking at momentum though, I think she is getting tired. When I looked at this MACD study, what's happening with MACD, Look how she crosses. She signals right there, dumps out, and that momentum to the downside. Again, she signals right here, dumps out to the downside, right there. So we're getting a signal now again. So that's that signal. It's right there, it's right there, and it was right there. So we're seeing it. We're seeing it in MACD. I can kind of see it in momentum. It's just it's making sense. I mean, I think it's also an opportunity that if price comes back into value, especially with some of the institutions turning on custodial service at the end of Q1, bringing price down into value, that could potentially help bring a lot more liquidity and capital into the markets. And if we can gain some of that momentum, then I think that's a good thing. I think that's a really good thing. So, but I think that we've been kind of in a consolidation area for when I zoom out after this dump, when we broke this 5900 mark right there. It's just been so much accumulation. I've been posting a few of the heat maps inside of the Discord channel. Do you see some of those bags getting filled? I mean, 900 BTC bags in a couple of orders, in 4 orders. So I see a lot of positive signs. I mean, if you're in a BTC, I mean, look at BTC for a moment, just on this weekly, right? She tops out at 20K. She's retraced 83%, which is all the way down to 3,200, which the Cryptonaut and I often discuss. You know, the cost of production for Asia is about 3,200. It's been pretty consistent. And I like the way that the story folds, that, you know, price action is actually living inside of the 200 EMA and the 200 MA. It's just bouncing inside of there. And this study was done from 20K all the way down to 1,800. 1,800 I thought was the floor, because 2017 is kind of when we started to see these billion-dollar candles. So it's like kind of these digital footprints of institutions coming in, and we figured that might be the floor. Then, you know, we went to 3,000. 3,000 kind of became a line of defense in when we ran up to 5 and then came back down to 3. And the narrative was, yeah, we're going to go lower. We're going to go 2,000. We're going to go 1,000, but it never happened. So right now, I like what I'm seeing. I like what I'm seeing on that. But I hope that answers your question.
No, that's great analysis. I appreciate that. That's you got to take it all in.
Yeah,
I've got another question, but I'll let you guys.
No, go ahead. Ask.
So after we had the big dump the other day, I was trying to apply the EMAs to the charts, and nothing was really making any sense except for the 1 hour. Everything had dropped so quickly that you couldn't go to like a 4 hour or 1 day. You know, everything was just so far askew. The only thing that was making sense was the 1 hour. And I look at Litecoin a lot of times, and everything was coming back up to like the 20 or the 50 EMA, and it was hitting that range. But everything else, it was just so far off. How do we handle that when it does something like that? What are we supposed to be looking at?
Well, the problem with that is that you have to think about what an EMA actually is. EMA is a algorithm averaging out the past 30, 50, 100 days on the average. So when we get a violent drop like that, it throws all of that out of whack. So now we have to wait for it to settle, and we have to give it a little bit of time for that new data that's coming in to work its way into the equation to go. Did you get a chance to see my EMA module by any chance?
I haven't looked at it.
Okay,
I'm behind.
When you get a chance, look at my EMA module, because it kind of explains the algorithm and how that works. So when those events happen, a lot of the times what I like to look at is I go to the smaller time frames, like the half hour or the 15-minute, to start giving me some guide on the momentum. And that's going to be the MACD indicator. The MACD indicator is going to give us that momentum. When the momentum starts coming back into the market, it's not going to reflect on the 4 hour, on the 6 hour, and 12 hour until it trickles over from the smaller time frames. So personally, that's what I like to do. I jump into the 15-minute and wait for that momentum to start picking up. I find that anything smaller than the 15-minute is not very accurate, because if you look at the 5-minute during those times, the MACD is doing this, going up and down, up and down.
Right.
It's too violent. It's still too much volatility. The 15-minute has a little bit more order to it. And as the 15-minute starts to curl up and does that bullish crossing, I ignore the 15-minute and then concentrate on the 30-minute, and I work my way up, so forth and so on, until I get to back to the 1 hour to the 2 hour time frame to give me a little bit more stability. And usually by the third or fourth hour, you start seeing the EMA start kind of finding their new algorithm and kind of start posting a little bit more accuracy as far as the higher time frames are not going to be resistance points, and the lower time frames are now going to be the new support lines, moving again on those time frames from the smaller to the higher, supporting that price action as it moves up.
Gotcha. Okay. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Take care.
For those people that are new here to the Zoom session that are coming from Crypto Mist Discord, I do want to invite you guys to check us out. You can go to bleedingcrypto.com. I'm not trying to take you guys away from her Discord group. I think she provides a lot of great value. She and I very often come to the same conclusion when we're looking at a chart and we're analyzing stuff, and that's why me and her become really good friends on Twitter. We talk a lot about charts, we compare charts, and her charts are always, she has a different, actually she has a very similar outlook. She uses the MACD and the RSI and the fibs very similar to the way I do. So I'm not trying to take away from her group, but if you guys want to be in another community, and I'm part of her community, you guys see me in there. I'm part of a member, and there's nothing wrong with having multiple areas of communities, multiple areas of resources, so that you can help sharpen your skills and gather more information. This is all about helping each other, guys. This whole crypto community, Twitter and all these different Discord groups are here for one purpose: to make you guys better traders, to help you guys control your future. Right now, in the typical scenario of things, we have brokers and bankers and outside forces controlling where our money goes and how our money is spent. This is an opportunity. Crypto gives us an opportunity to take control of that, to make us responsible for our future and make us responsible for our own finances. And what better way to do that than to be or in a community with 500-600 other like-minded individuals helping each other out. If you guys want to come to our community, you guys will see we don't have trolls in our community. We have a bunch of people who take the time out of their busy day, who help answer questions, help post charts, help with setup. Everybody sees the market differently, and everyone has their different view on a particular chart, and we share that and we compare that to help us try to find a direction and which way this market is going for the benefit of all of us together. So I do encourage you guys, if you guys get a moment, go over to bleedingcrypto.com. Come check us out. We are priced really, really inexpensive because I didn't like it. Now, keep in mind that besides the community that we have a lot of teaching tools as well. We have modules that are recorded on different subjects. We have a lot of different rooms with a lot of great information that I think you guys will find very, very helpful. I don't have any other. Jeg, I'm actually finishing up the next module coming out is going to be the support and resistance module. I'm finishing the recording on that. After I finish the recording on that, it goes into editing so that Mr. Mo can put it in a really nice format, the way the other previous modules that looks very professional. That's all him. He edits my ghetto-ness and makes it look really nice and sharp and presentable. So that's his job. Remember, I'm the sloppy roommate. So yeah, just think of me as a sloppy roommate. So yeah, so we do have the support and resistance module coming out. So I don't have any more questions, no more of the raised hands. I just want to thank everybody for being with us today. And let me see, make sure I don't miss anybody's question. Okay, yeah. Oh, actually, wait, I just got a raised hand. Why is it not coming up? Give me a second here. I do have the Woodsman. Give me 1 second. The Woodsman has actually been putting some really lot of work in getting the trading group app is going to be coming to our channel. So before I finish, let me get Woodsman on here. Woodsman, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah, you're really, really low, but I can hear you.
I'll try and speak louder.
Okay.
As you and Mr. Mo and I talked earlier, and we took the poll, it seemed that Saturday at 10 o'clock a.m. Central Standard Time worked best for the majority. And I just got a message right now confirmed from Chinggis that all is a go.
Awesome. Awesome. So you heard
man.
that, guys. So Saturday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time?
Central Standard Time.
Okay, so that'll make it 9 o'clock Los Angeles time, 10 o'clock Arizona time, and that'll make it noon time for those Eastern folks. Noontime Eastern, New York time. We're going to have Trading Room app giving us a rundown, a webinar on how to use their tools. I don't know exactly which tool, but every single one of their tools is amazing. So I'm definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun.
And guys, just so you know, this was all 100% Woodsman doing. He's been working on this for you guys, for the community. Me and Mr. Mo had really no hand on this. So I just want to thank you, Woodsman. I want to give you props. Appreciate that.
Thanks, PC.
Big shout out, Woodsman.
Yeah. AK is asking if the webinar is going to be recorded. You know it. You know Mr. Mo is all over that. So we're going to record that and we'll have it posted inside of our Discord once that is completed. So you guys can come back and reference it whenever you need to. And for those who can't attend the live show, you can always come back and watch it at your own leisure. Anything else, Mr. Mo, you want to add?
Nope. Everyone have an awesome day. And again, definitely work towards your trading plan. You are having an opportunity in March that prices will come back into value, and that's a good thing. So have a great day.
All right. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye now.